Hello, welcome to another Super License live stream. My name's Rod, flying solo again today. Another live stream where you've just got me. The cynical among you may say, yeah, you waited until Zach was sleeping and then you slipped in with your dirty little live stream. Cutting Zach out of the show. This is Zach Erasure. It's not. I just have very limited time. I've been wanting to do a live stream all week. I haven't had time or energy, frankly, to do it. Got some peace and quiet right now, so we're gonna bloody do it. It's time for this. Hang on, which one is it again? What's the one that I always overplay at the start of the show? Must be this one. Play
wow, I guess this is a big moment.
Everybody quiet. Everyone shut up. Everyone shut up.
Wow, I guess this is a big moment. I should care about it.
Thank you. It is a big moment. You should care about it. We're going to talk about the F1 movie today. The initial reactions have been starting to come out. It's not released publicly for another few days, but there are the early critics' reactions coming in. Talk a little bit about just some of the stuff around that. I'm going to go and see it in a few days, and I'll break it down probably with Zach on the podcast. So we'll probably do a full segment about it in which I will go into detail about it. Go into why that's important soon. But we're going to talk about the F1 movie this morning. Going to talk about Piastri versus Norris. We're going to talk about Russell versus Verstappen, and we're going to talk about some surprising steward developments, some old men behaving badly, and the consequences therein. So there's a bit to cover, a little bit of stuff. Where should we start? I thought this might be the perfect starting place. And by that, I mean this. I didn't know where to go to get full, overview of, how do I just get a roll-up view of movies? What's good? What people think of it? I was like, oh, you idiot. Just go to Rotten Tomatoes. It'll all be there. I haven't looked up. I don't use this website much. But I'm sure it'll all be here. I did also say at one point that I wanted to talk about the ads when they pop up. So SEMrush, SEO tools to tackle your toughest tasks. So thanks, SEMrush. Thank goodness you were here for us. F1, the movie. So, comes out in theaters Friday, 27th of June. 2.5 hours. Oh no. I think I booked to go to a 9:30 session on Thursday night. That's a school night for those playing along at home. So I better have a way to get home quick smart after that because I'm going to be zonked. All right, 2.5 hours. I'll watch your little movie. I was surprised by this. 89% on the tomatometer with 80 reviews. I think we'll read some of the early critics' reviews, but the early reviews are not good. The early reviews are that this is a sort of half-baked Top Gun take two. This is Top Gun on the ground. That's what that was the original tagline, was going to be F1 the movie, Top Gun on the ground. They were going to call it that. That was the elevator pitch. I mean, some people are saying, that the drivers are not thrilled about it, and they're saying things like, yeah, don't just ignore all the little things that they got wrong. They're obviously in the depths of it. They obviously know Formula One and Formula One cars inside and out. So any little thing that they get wrong, you can see him downshifting, but you can't hear the revs change. I don't think we can go into a movie like this worrying about stuff like that. This is a Hollywood movie. We have to meet it on its terms. I think that that's really important. So if this gets you eating this stuff, if this movie gets you eating your popcorn, it's done its job, okay? I'm going to go into it with that mentality, and I'm going to try and come out and say, I think this does that or it does not do that. I'm going to have other thoughts about what I liked or didn't like about it. But whether the movie is a success or a failure is going to hinge on whether it gets you eating popcorn or not. When I have a look at some of these reviews, I'm not reading every full review, but let's have a quick look at some. Time Magazine, Stephanie Zacharek. Brad Pitt at 61 has finally aged into roles like these, and sometimes, as F1 proves, they're the best thing that could happen to a guy. Right. What? 61 is about 20 years too old to be a Formula One driver, but okay. And roles like these. So she obviously thinks this is a pretty substantial role, I guess. That you age into a role like this. Again and again, this is from the New York. Oh, Justin Chang, okay. New York top critic. Again and again, F1 finds fresh pathways into familiar material. It keeps its surface level moves unpredictable, even though its overarching trajectory isn't. Its surface level moves unpredictable, even though the overarching trajectory isn't. So don't expect too much from the story. It's going to be basic, but the machinations offer something to think about, is how I read that. Which is, frankly, that's all you want from a good Hollywood movie. I don't know. I read one review that said, Pitt is an aging driver who is paired up with a rookie, a young, fiery rookie. At first, sparks fly between them of animosity, but you can guess where that goes. And then Pitt is also paired up with a plucky, no nonsense female engineer, and you can guess where that goes. I was like, this doesn't augur well. This does not Brian augur in the Trinity well for that movie. What are some of the other... Okay, the Nightly from Australia. Here we go. This will count. F1 is super entertaining. Mostly a bloody good time. It comes with a lot of buts, caveats, and howevers. Oh. 3 out of 5. So I forgot to look at some of the scores here. Okay. I'm noticing there's not a lot of 5 stars or top, like a must-see movie. I'm noticing there's not a lot of reviews like that. Which from a movie that has been... I think they've invested 300 million making this movie, or 400 million making this movie. To not even get 5 stars or must-see kind of status is a failure already, I think. But anyway, B+, no review here. 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. 4 out of 5? Okay. B, 3 out of 5, 3 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5. Yay! Thanks, Rachel. A fun, thrilling, and a perfect summer blockbuster. Well, okay. 5 out of 5 from the Nerdists. Got to be suspect about people like the Nerdists, though. They don't really know... I was going to say they don't know movies. What the Nerdist knows is fan culture. What the Nerdist knows is fan service. I've been maintaining, though, that I think this movie is probably not even for F1 fans. It's for everybody else. I'll have a better idea of that after I've seen it. What else have we got? 4 out of 5, 3.5 out of 5. The more reputable the publication, the lower the score, I'm kind of noticing. I'm just saying that this is like slightly better than standard kind of scoring, which is not great for it's frankly not great for a huge movie. They've really over-invested in this. They're chasing prestige. They want awards. They want for there to be something for everybody. They don't want anyone to leave this movie and say, even if you don't like Formula One, this movie's not... Like, they don't want anyone to leave the movie and say, if you don't like Formula One, this movie's not for you. They never set out to make that movie. Hopefully you have something of a universal kind of story that everybody can relate to and get their teeth into. Hopefully there's enough interesting nitty-gritty in the details that you leave going, I didn't know that. I learned something. And I was interested. I was invested to know it. Because it was important to the story. So I'm guessing there's going to be maybe not a lot, but a bit of that. If they explain how the tires work, there's going to be a scene later on where it's important that you knew how the tires work so that you could understand the drama of the situation. That kind of thing. We will have to wait and see. I need to say something here. I called out someone online who said that they saw... I called out someone online who said that they saw the movie and they were like, their initial... This is just on Threads. It was just a post. But they were like, Brad Pitt at his Hollywood best. Javier Bardem in a suit. Wow. That score by Hans Zimmer. Woo. And I was like, say something about the movie. And my response was, oh, so you didn't see the movie. Got it. And I was being a troll and I had my tongue in my cheek. I was being cheeky. And they were like, I saw the movie. What the fuck are you talking about? And they're completely within their right to say that. My point, though, was I could get everything that you told me from the trailer or from reading the credits. You've offered me no insight at all into what you thought of the movie and what the movie is, despite seeing it. I mean, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. So my promise to you is, after I've seen the movie, I'll be telling you about it. What it's like. What I thought of it. What I thought worked, it didn't work. What you might like about it. Not just the surface level details. Formula One movie. Amazing font. I love the way that it was executive produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. Love that for him. That's my pledge. I want to watch this. We're going to get into... Oscar Piastri versus Lando Norris. I'm just going to watch through this ad. Bear with me. Forget all of this.
We go to turn one!
So we're going to talk about Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. They obviously had a coming together. They had a disagreement in physical space at the Canadian Grand Prix. So let's watch this breakdown. I haven't seen Geordie Palmer's breakdown yet. I'm sure it'll be engaging and amazing, as it always is. I have lots of thoughts about this, but let's get into it.
We go to turn one! No, he's ripped off the front wing! The McLarens collide!
So let's get into the big talking point, and it
Why are you showing Albon and Colapinto then?
starts with our second question of the show. Hi, Jolien. What are your thoughts on the collision between Oscar and Lando? Well, it was the big one. Finally, the two McLarens have come together. It was a...
So everyone's been talking about this. Finally, they've come together. And a lot of people said, you know, yes, they came together, but it was never a question of if they come together. It was a question of when they come together. As if that matters. As if that means anything. One driver, in my opinion, is in the wrong. The other driver was fighting fairly and hardly and within their rights. It feels a little bit immediately like people are trying to diminish blame and say, these guys were always going to come together. Yeah, they came together. They were always going to. Who cares? Talk about what happened and talk about, you know, this is what everybody wants. Who's to blame?
a pretty good race from Lando up until that point, but I have to say, this incident...
I feel like I don't want, not to interrupt you. Excuse me, pardon me, Jolien. Not to interrupt you all the time. I thought Lando drove a great race. Not so great in qualifying. I thought he drove a great race. Good strategy. Set himself up for this kind of charge at the end through his tyre management and great pit calls. Really, other than about 10 seconds of the race, he had a great Sunday. As good as you could be. Great race, except for about 10 seconds worth. And everything after that, he got exactly right. Everything after that, he said exactly all the right things. No complaints. 10 out of 10 for me, for your Sunday behaviour, apart from that little 10 seconds.
It's pretty clear cut too. It was a Norris error, and he admitted as much straight away. Let's have a look first at turn 10, because this is a beautiful move from Norris. From 2 car lengths back here, has a look down the inside. Piastri's not seeing this one coming. This is a move that Norris did a few times a couple of years ago to try and come through the field, and it's really...
Did he? I don't remember that. When was he coming through the field? A few years ago. In Canada.
Effective if you're in a DRS train. Usually, on the exit of the corner, you get the DRS, and you have this really long straight up here, up towards the final chicane, and that's your best opportunity for a pass. But as Piastri is within a second of Antonelli at this point, Norris isn't going to have the overspeed on the straight, so he has to get a bit creative with how he's going to pass his teammate, and he goes for it down the inside. It's a lovely move from a good chunk back, no lockup, gets to the apex.
This is a great move, and he's clearly ahead here. Can't quite keep it. He can't quite get it to turn as much as he wants. And at this point, Piastri already knows where he's going. He's like, I'm going to keep it as tight as I can through here. And I'm going to keep it as tight as I can and make sure that I have that inside line if it opens up.
And looks like he's got it done here. but he just washes slightly too far wide
You can see him already doing that.
and gives that car's width back for Oscar on the exit. And Piastri
I mean, you have to be on the brakes earlier to prevent this. And if you're on the brakes earlier, you don't get ahead. So, I mean, you know, this is just racing 101 stuff.
takes it. So now we're on a drag race all the way up the straight. They're both looking to try and get the bit of a slipstream from Antonelli out front.
This was really interesting and exciting. And Lando Norris gets ahead here, but bails out, which I thought was... I mean, I think you could say a lot about that. I maybe won't make the big deal out of that, but you could say a lot about that.
Run, who kind of hovers in the middle and gives Lando a bit more of an advantage by taking the racing line. So as we get towards the braking zone for the final chicane, Norris again is almost ahead, but he's not decisively ahead to be able to defend that inside line.
See, I feel like if this is Verstappen or someone in this position, I don't think he bails out the way Norris does. And Norris, I feel like Verstappen or someone would just say, I'm going to take this inside line. You can have that outside line. I'm turning now. Good luck, everybody.
What that means,
For right or wrong, I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's what he would do.
is that Oscar can just about hold on to that inside line and then throw his car down to make sure that
I guess you have to remember too, these guys are teammates. So yes, if they crash, Norris would probably be found at fault by the team in that instance.
that move isn't complete into the chicane. So it's a good bit of defense.
So Oscar lives to fight another day. He does leave it as late as he can and then tries to turn in as tight as he can. And as a result, his back end steps out a little bit, which means that Norris can stay on the back of him a bit more.
Piastri,
I'm sure
but it
Lando's
is
about.
meaning
I'm
he's
sure
compromised on the
Geordie
exit.
is about
So
to
now
say
we go
that.
again with Lando, who knows now this
Amazing
is the
run
last
through
chance
here.
he'll get before we go back to the next lap, and it's also maybe the last chance he'll get in the whole Grand Prix because Piastri.
I hate that. The last chance he'll get in the whole Grand Prix. No, this is where Norris keeps doing this, thinking any chance he gets is going to be his only chance and his last chance. And what Piastri has done so well is back himself and say, I've got the car, I've got the speed, everything is on my favor. I don't need to go for those low percentage chance moves. I don't need to take every low percentage move opportunity that presents itself. I can wait, I can set things up and I can execute. And that's what he has done better this year than Norris.
Is within a second of Antonelli. We're in a DRS train, and Lando's just shown his hand to Oscar as well. That turn 10 move, Oscar will be way more wary of it next.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think at this point, Oscar's thinking, if I survive this lap, he's going to get me again at the hairpin next time around.
Time. So this is the crunch time for Norris, and I think he knows it, and it's why he's in desperation making a pretty bad mistake here. Looks to the inside. There's just no
Yeah, it hurts to watch this.
space. Then the track goes to the right hand side, but this is really just in a straight line.
I saw some people, Jacques Villeneuve and a few other people online say, Piastri's pushing over there. Piastri's drifting left there. You shouldn't be doing that. That's wrong. Piastri's in the wrong there. Mate, we strongly disagree.
For Lando, it's a big mistake under pressure, and pressure that he's putting on himself really to make the pass. We're only talking
How dare you say that, Jolien? Don't you know? Don't you know Lando Norris doesn't like hearing that? So don't say it.
about fourth or fifth. It's 2 points in a swing in the championship, so 4 points net between Norris and Piastri. Let's have a look on board because, again, I want to see this move. It's a fantastic dive between title rivals, and it's clean. It's great racing from the two of them all the way through. This hairpin, there's space up to...
So Oscar does get a little bit ahead here, but it's only really because Lando, I'm not going to go back, but he got his left tires over the grass a little bit and he was just sort of riding the bumps a bit. That's the only reason Oscar got a little bit ahead there. And then the drag race just becomes the two even cars and Oscar was on the gas a little bit earlier. So that gives him the advantage down this back straight.
to the chicane. Now you can see
But
them
it's not
both
much.
trying to get that slipstream from Antonelli on the run up to the chicane.
Yeah, Antonelli, I don't know. In the cool down room, Antonelli was like, oh, which driver would I rather give the toe to? I was like, dude, I don't think at that point you were thinking about that. I just don't.
It's Norris who benefits more from it, sticks right there, but he's not done enough.
Yeah.
So Piastri dives in, fantastic on the brakes from Oscar, and it looks like
So look here where they are. They're through. This is the wall of champions here. They're just through. I mean, Norris here can taste it. Norris here can taste what he can taste that next position. He's already mentally in his mind ticking up the points and thinking I'm going to close the gap to Piastri here. Maybe even catch Antonelli as well.
It's like he's held it. So we get to this point, and once again,
but the gap. I mean, he's already edging that way. Why isn't Norris going this way?
Piastri has the DRS because he's within that zone of Antonelli. So what do? Well, if you can go to the left-hand side, you're going to have, in the end, the inside for turn one. Once you go through that sweep,
I know,
right,
but
and that will be your
there's
best
a
chance
wall
of
there,
making a
bro.
move.
Look where your
And they
arrow
both
is
know
pointing.
that, which is why Piastri defends it. So in the end, once we get to this point, you see Lando then jinking, looking like he's going to try and take that tiny bit of space, but it's not there. Really, what he should have done, obviously, in hindsight, is just blast it to the right-hand side, try and make it stick. And with the way that the road moves to the right, it's a bit shorter distance as well. Could he have done that? Could he have got his whole car ahead of Piastri before?
And even if you're not on the inside for turn one, you're on the inside for turn two. So it wouldn't have been that bad to go to the right. Also, to be more charitable to Lando, what I was wondering was whether he was waiting for this chink in the road where it jinks to the right. Maybe he was thinking, well, Oscar's going to have to move over to the right to take the corner, and then I'll be right there to zip down the inside. But he just pulled it off too early because his speed was pushing him into the move, making him commit too early. I wondered if maybe that was
for
it.
the
But
braking zone. Maybe, but it's a tough one.
I think I'm nearly
In
done
the
with
end,
this
it
video,
doesn't
though.
really matter because it's just a complete misjudgment here from.
Yeah, all right, whatever. We get it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Geordie, what's your name? Geordie Patterson or something? Thank you, Jordan Peterson, for your thoughts. Yeah, what notes did I make about it? The race was pretty boring. That's one of the reasons why we're talking so much about this. I think all the notes that I said I've already dropped in, especially the one about this was brewing. This was always going to happen. Well, I don't really care if people thought it was always going to happen. I just care about what happened and what we make of it. Someone said McLaren screwed this up. Someone said McLaren screwed this up because Norris is faster. They should be deploying team rules and telling Piastri to get out of the way. There's a few problems with that. Obviously, one of the things that happens, and it drives me crazy, is when the two cars get near each other and things look spicy, people call out, oh, please, team, take control of this issue. First of all, no one wants the team to take control of the issue. Everyone wants to see them race if they can. But everyone online says, please, call papaya rules, please. And it's like, what do you think papaya rules means? Because papaya rules, this is papaya rules. We're watching papaya rules here. Papaya rules means they can battle each other. As long as they don't drive into each other, and as long as they don't break the rules and they drive fair, then they're free to race. That's what papaya rules means. This is papaya rules. We're watching it play out. Papaya rules is they can battle each other. Team orders is don't battle each other. So I guess the question is, should McLaren have deployed team orders here? In which case, what do? Piastri's ahead. Piastri qualified better. There's only a few laps left. Neither of them are on the podium. So why would you deploy team orders to secure what? 4th and 5th? Maybe just let them go. Maybe one of them will chase down 3rd. Team orders also would have meant that Norris had the whole station, I think, because Piastri's ahead. So all the LN4, fanboys and girls and non-Bs, NBs, you would have lost this chance for Norris to do better. So I don't know if that's what people really want. Also, there have been races earlier this year where Piastri was faster. Piastri had an advantage over Norris, and he was like, I'm faster. Guys, what are we going to do? And the team said, you're free to overtake him if you can, so try. And he couldn't. So fair enough, he couldn't. But, that's the decision the team made in those instances. So that's the kind of decision the team should be making here. That's my 15 cents on the question. So anyway. They live on. I noticed after the race that Piastri was he was in two minds. He was obviously not that happy that it happened, but I feel like in a way, he was happy to get away with it, if you know what I mean. his main title rival scored no points, and he got, what do you get for fourth? 12 points or something? Not a bad day at the office, really. If he had won and Norris came second, he would have been happy, and he would have had a smaller points advantage over his teammate and main title rival in that scenario. I think what would have really, I mean, people are already going to move on from this, right? Norris admitted blame. No foul. Let's move on. That's fine. What really would have set everything on fire here is if Norris hit Piastri, Piastri crashed out, and then Norris went on to score points. Or even if Piastri had lost a couple of places or something like that. This thing could have really blown up and turned thermonuclear. So, I mean, something happened. It was fun and exciting. It's cool to talk about. I still feel like we avoided... Excuse me. I really just sort of feel like we avoided the big meltdown here. All right, what's next? Don't really have like a video or a article or anything to read or anything to go over, but I do want to go over the Russell and Verstappen stuff. So, where does it start? Well, I mean, George Russell and Verstappen, they go back away. Obviously, Russell's the head of the Grand Prix Drivers Association. Max Verstappen has been the subject of numerous controversies, some of which the Grand Prix Driver Association have had to get involved in or mitigate in various ways with various parties. I think that put those two on a collision course. Then there was those incidents last year where Verstappen felt that Russell was reporting Verstappen to the stewards for petty things and complaining and dragging things out and making an issue out of nothing. And he was extremely vocal. This is all important backstory and context, I think. Verstappen saying, oh yeah, if Russell's going to act like that, next time I'm going to put him in the wall, which he sort of like denies saying, but everyone kind of like can imagine him saying, I guess. A lot of victimizing going on in the Verstappen camp, generally, I would say. So, Russell and Verstappen, no love lost there. In Spain, Russell makes a silly mistake and makes contact with Verstappen that costs him a little bit. Verstappen deliberately drives his car into Russell, which was fucking stupid. What we heard after that incident was that everything was fine. They'd kind of moved on and forgotten about it. I guess the way they move on and forget about everything, because you have to, because they've got new races to focus on and stuff. Supposedly these two crossed paths in an airport and were talking about the day-to-day stuff. It was very jovial, from all reports. Very cordial, like nothing had happened. Like one guy had not deliberately driven his car into the other guy on purpose. Just acting like that didn't happen. Maybe it did. Maybe they were both thinking something but didn't want to acknowledge it. I don't know. But look, there's been needle between these two, clearly. Then we get to Saturday in Canada. Russell puts it on pole and Verstappen is beside him. And every question before qualifying had been about Verstappen's on the brink of getting a penalty. One more penalty point and he'll get a race ban. And Verstappen, I think wrongly, overreacted, blew up, and said, I'm sick of answering questions about this. This is fucking childish. I'm so tired of this. It's ridiculous. And it's like, mate, I can tell you a few things that I think are ridiculous. Some of your conduct would be top of the list. But anyway, Verstappen clearly was not happy. And I think Russell, after having taken pole, was probably just a little bit... He was high in his own supply. Made a comment, something like, I've got a few more penalty points to play with than him, so we'll see. And Verstappen didn't like it. Red Bull certainly didn't like it. Then we get to this sort of... We get to this weird stuff that went on behind the safety car. I'm the first to admit that it was a bit weird. But one of the stupid things was that when Red Bull reported it to the stewards to investigate, they brought up things like, yeah, you know, there's been some things said. There's been some things said before this incident, and we just want everyone to just take note because we sort of suspect that something's about to go down. It's like, get a fucking grip, man. Now who's being childish, right? The other thing, oh, well, you know, we'll get into the radio stuff as well, but it's like the other thing to bring up is like, you know, when it's Verstappen swearing and people come to his defense and say he should be able to say whatever he wants. Or when it's Max Verstappen lashing out at literally everybody, other drivers, other teams, stewards, the head of the FIA, when he lashes out at everybody, they're like, we fucking love that. We love this guy when he lashes out at people. He's speaking his mind. He has so much passion. He should be able to say and do whatever he wants. But then when it's George Russell, they hate it. When it's George Russell making a little joke after he took pole, when it's George Russell on the radio behind the safety car saying, Verstappen seems to be ahead of me there, he can't do that. They take a huge offense and they report it to the stewards and present it as almost evidence of motive or something. Leaving aside the fact that Verstappen fucking tries to steward from the car all the time. He went off there. He didn't go off there. He didn't give me space. He has to give the position back. He's the worst for that. Verstappen is the worst for that in the sport. So we're riding behind the safety car. George Russell is swerving. George Russell does look in his mirrors. And then George Russell does stomp down on his brake pedal. I'm not saying he didn't do any of those things. And one of the things that Red Bull brought up was it looks like he's more than 10 car lengths behind the safety car, which I would say, yeah, that seems to check out to me. He does look like he's more than 10 lengths behind the safety car. Maybe he should be investigated for that. But because he stomps on his brake pedal, Max Verstappen, who was not behind Russell directly, was behind him on the track, but not behind him in line, flies ahead of him because he's not stomping on his brake. It's the job of the car behind to follow the car in front of them, whether they swerve, brake, or otherwise. I don't believe Verstappen's charge that Russell was driving erratically, necessarily. He's allowed to warm up his brakes. That's a standard thing. Do I think Russell was perhaps deliberately trying to make sure that Verstappen was on his toes, maybe even trying to catch him out, maybe hoping he could give him a penalty? I don't know. Maybe. That's a live option. I wouldn't put it past him. The one thing I'm realizing about George Russell this year, and I think the change that we've seen in George Russell, is that he's trying to add a bit more of that champion asshole to his arsenal, to his toolkit. He's clearly able to drive fast, but and can put together good weekends. But I think he's seen as the good guy that people can push around. And I think he's keen to point out that he's not the good guy that everyone can push around. And again, not to make too much of this, but there are those sort of rumors that Russell might leave and that Verstappen might be in the sights from Toto Wolff. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's all going to pop off, but if the dominoes start to hit, Russell might leave Mercedes, and Verstappen might replace him. So, I mean, that would up the animosity between these two as well. But I think that Russell, who seems to be in negotiations with Mercedes, is keen to show Mercedes, I can go toe to toe with Verstappen. I can take the fight to him just as much as he takes it to anyone else. I think Russell wants to be seen as that person. So there's that. They're behind the safety car. Like I say, Russell slams on his brakes. He falls behind the safety car. I think legitimately that should have been investigated. And whatever finding was found from that should have been, like, if he'd got a penalty for that, well, that's tough. Maybe you shouldn't have done it. That's the game you're playing. I don't think he did it to try to make Verstappen crash. I don't think it was dangerous. Some of the Red Bull evidence was pretty dodgy, saying Verstappen had to take evasive action and was forced to overtake him. I was like, well, he didn't have to take evasive action. He was beside him. He was behind and beside him. So it's not like he was directly behind him and Russell brake checked him, so he had to swerve out of the way, which was what happened with Vettel and Vettel and Hamilton. Not that Hamilton slammed on his brakes in that instance, but he didn't accelerate when a normal person on a normal racing lap would, or even on a pedestrian lap behind the safety car. You'd expect acceleration there, and he didn't. It's kind of the equivalent of braking. But he just, in that case, in that moment, Hamilton kind of just caught Sebastian napping more than anything. So anyway, like I say, I went to the stewards. They weren't having a bar of it. They were like, nah, Red Bull, you can get stuffed. Red Bull, yeah, presented some evidence that I think was pretty flimsy. The whole charge was pretty flimsy. They asked Christian Horner after the race, was it Verstappen who asked that you take it to the stewards? And he said, no, he had nothing to do with it. I mean, in fact, once they left the steward's office, Verstappen was like, you could see the online trackers. Verstappen was on his private plane heading home. He didn't care at all. I saw people say what Russell did to Verstappen was as bad as what Verstappen did to Russell in Spain when he drove into him. This is the stuff that happens online that just drives me fucking crazy, because what the hell are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? Russell doing something legitimately behind a safety car that he's allowed to do, where there was no contact, versus on a live racetrack, one driver deliberately driving into the other one with his car. What the fuck are you talking about? There's no similarity between those at all. What are we to do, people? I don't know how we rectify this. The one good thing, though, I think, in terms of if you have to find something good about this, one good thing I think is that it's really good to have this sort of side rivalry. Like if the main champion fight is between Piastri and Norris, and they're gonna do what they do. They're gonna do their thing. It's hard to imagine Piastri getting like angry or blowing up with anyone, right? If their vibe is going to be like that, it's good to have a bit more of a spicy, bubbling vibe, a bubbling feud, something everyone has an opinion on, something everyone picks a side on, something that you talk about at the pub when you're talking about Formula One. And it's also good, I think, that the stakes are not the championship. I think it frees it up a little bit more. So I'm definitely looking forward to more. I feel like this is a bit of a taster of more animosity to come between Russell and Verstappen. I'm here for it. One more thing before I leave you. Let's have a look at this. This really caught my eye because it was a bit of a surprise. This is from the BBC. Excuse me, please. We did see Johnny Herbert was asked to step aside from his whatever stewarding responsibilities he has, because the perception was that his comments in the media and his standing in the media was maybe not a good match for somebody, adjudicating on matters of racing. And now, rightly or wrongly, we're seeing the FIA exert even more power by suspending Derek Warwick, the steward, for one of the races. Apparently he'll be back at the next race, but suspended for one race. Now, Derek Warwick is not exactly a big media entity. He's not a big personality. He's not a commentator or a pundit or whatever. But he apparently does make give comments to certain websites. He gave comments to, I think, some gambling websites. We'll read the article here to get the full background. But he did say a few things that got me raising my eyebrows and saying, I know you as a steward, and I don't know if a steward should be talking about that. But let's get into this. This is from Andrew Benson. Former Grand Prix driver Derek Warwick has been suspended from his role as steward at this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix. Governing body, the FIA, said the decision had been made following recent unauthorized media comments. It said he would be replaced by Brazilian Enrique Bernoldi, who would be officiating from the remote operations center in Geneva for the remainder of the event, so he wasn't even there. The FIA added, after discussion, Derek acknowledges that his comments were ill-advised in his role as an FIA steward and apologized. Derek will renew duties at the Austrian Grand Prix. Blah, blah, blah. He won Le Mans 24. Fine. An ex-F1 driver is always one of the 4 stewards officiating at every Grand Prix. Great. Last week, Warwick was quoted as saying that a penalty given to Red Bull's Max Verstappen at the Spanish Grand Prix after the Dutchman apparently deliberately collided with Mercedes' George Russell was right. On a gambling website, Warwick said, should he have done what he did in turn 5 with George Russell? Absolutely not. Did he get a penalty for that? Yes. And then he goes on to say, it seems to me that although he dove in, he did turn away from George, but momentum pushed him against George. It is absolutely wrong, and the FIA was right to give him a penalty. I think as someone who signs the penalty notices, probably not a good idea to just get into any of this stuff just at all. Might have been better if he just left that alone. He's not even saying anything wrong, really. I mean, what he's saying is he did the wrong thing and he got a penalty. But it's more giving a comment at all. And on a gambling website? Why do that? Why is he on a gambling website? This was the other one that caught my eye in particular. Warwick also commented on the performance of Red Bull's second drivers and on Lewis Hamilton's situation at Ferrari, being quoted as saying, it is an enigma why Hamilton can't get going at his new team. Oh, they don't go into it here. I believe Derek Warwick said something along the lines of, Lewis Hamilton deserves an 8th world championship. Which, it's okay for people to believe that. It's okay for people to want that. But when you're a steward making decisions over who wins and loses, who gets a penalty and who doesn't, when you have the power to influence results, maybe it's not a good idea to go to a gambling website and say you're going to stack the deck because you think that some driver deserves something more than another driver. Your job is to be impartial. So I think some really poor judgment being shown there by Derek Warwick. And I'm surprised that that didn't appear here. I don't know why. It's interesting from the BBC they didn't include that. But anyway, we will follow the situation of stewards behaving badly, old men behaving badly. Keep you up to date if there's any more of it that we spot. That's going to wrap it up for this live stream. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. We're going to be back, I think, in a few more weeks. I'm going to see the F1 movie at IMAX on Thursday next week. So what's that, 4 days from now? 5 days from now? Zach's going to try and see it, and we're going to, I guess, do a podcast shortly after that, and we'll do a big segment just on the movie, what we thought of it, what we liked about it, and so on. Let's get some music going. So yeah, I wonder if you're going to see it. Are you interested? Are you curious? Do you have high hopes? Would you be disappointed if it's mid? What will you give it out of 5? Because the overwhelming majority of reviewers seem to be saying 3 out of 5. It's a B movie. It's a rating B, not a production quality B. I'm worried. But remember, does it get you eating popcorn? Because if it does, it's done its job. Gonna love and leave you. Enjoy your non-F1 weekend. I'll see you soon. Catch up.